It's finally here. The Championship is back. Part of me still isn't used to saying that, given that we had 4 years in League One, but that's in the past. Hopefully, we're never there ever again. Anyway, guys, I'm going to try and do a quick fire Championship predictions for 2023, 2024, but my version of a quick fire is still probably going to be about 25 minutes long. So, you guys know what's coming. Strap yourselves in, and let's get right to it. Before we start, I am aware that the window hasn't shut yet. There is still 4 weeks left of the window. As of right now, it's lunchtime on Thursday, August the 3rd, that I am recording this. Um, so, and fans of all these teams, comment below. Tell me, as long as it's respectful, tell me if I missed the mark with any of yous. Do you think you're going to finish higher, lower, or what? Or do you think I'm about right with what I've predicted? It's just a bit of fun. My opinion means not barely anything these days. It's just my own opinion, what I think I can see happening, and I've been wrong loads of times before. So if I've predicted you to finish not where you want, maybe take that as a good thing. But anyway, guys, I've rambled on for about a minute. Let's get into the predictions. So straight away, in my bottom three, I have gone for Sheffield Wednesday in 24th, I've gone for QPR in 23rd, and Rotherham in 22nd. Sheffield Wednesday out of the three clubs are the one that I want to go down the least. I really want Sheffield Wednesday to prove me wrong because, and yes, only me can make this relevant to Sunderland, but the humility and graciousness in defeat they showed when we beat them in the playoffs has given me a massive amount of respect for Sheffield Wednesday. And they're a huge club anyway. They're a massive size club. But the reason I've got, so I really hope they prove me wrong. As long as they lose twice to Sunderland, please prove me wrong. The main reason I've gone for them to get the finish bottom is because of the off the pitch stuff. Darren Moore left in the summer, and I just watched, is it James Lawrence Albert, I think his name is? I might have got that name wrong, so I know he's not watching this video, but apologies if that's wrong. But he said that a lot of the players, the Sheffield Wednesday players, were big favours of Darren Moore, were big advocates of Darren Moore. Now, Isco Munez, I think is how you pronounce it, he was at Watford a couple of years ago, so he's proved he can do well in this division. But the argument there is the team he had at Watford is going to be a lot better than the team he has at Hillsborough. And the main signings they've made, I'm not going to go through every signing every club's made, but the ones I've listed, Ashley Fletcher and Reece James are two big ones. But that suggests to me your aim is strictly survival. And don't get me wrong, it is, having come up from League One, but I've just got a feeling, and the squad's getting older as well. I think it's one of the older teams in the Championship, and I think it's a squad built for League One, whereas I don't think it is for the Championship, unfortunately. QPR have gone for 23rd, and originally I didn't have QPR as a 23rd place team. I actually thought they'd stay up. Shock, gas, horror. I'm one of the few people that actually likes Gareth Ainsworth and doesn't get the stick he gets. However, selling players like Rob Dickey and Seni Diang, and they've signed players like Jack Colback, Asmir Begovic, Morgan Fox. These seem to be type of players that are suggesting again that the aim is survival. And last season was a car crash. They started really well, QPR, and yet ended up finishing dangerously close to the bottom three. And it was only thanks to a decent couple of points late on that they managed to stay up. As of right now, Elias Chair, I think is how you pronounce it, and Chris Willock are still there. But if they go, then it really doesn't look great for QPR. 22nd, I've gone for Rotherham. Now, again, Rotherham, we seem to predict to go down all the time. But for me, Rotherham did exceptionally to stay up last season. And Matt Taylor, especially taking over where Paul Warne left off. And I feel like with Rotherham, because of the players they've lost, Connor Washington, Richard Wood, Wes Harding, and obviously Ogbene to Luton, they've signed Fred Onyedima, I think it's it, Grant Hall, Dylan Phillips, etc. They've signed those type of players, but also I think second season syndrome could kick in. And again, Rotherham fans will hope I'm wrong because I predicted you to go down last year and you stayed up. I just think this year with the players you've lost, I think it's going to be a big ask. 21st. Now, I originally had these a lot higher, but I can't, with the teams above them, I can't predict them to finish any higher than this. Huddersfield. Now, the main reason I've got them staying up is down to Neil Warnock, but in the transfer window, they've been pretty inactive compared to other teams. Chris Maxwell and Tom Edwards are the two players that I'm thinking of. They've signed those two players, and while I think Huddersfield did really well to stay up last year, bearing in mind they got points against Norwich, Sunderland, Watford, Middlesbrough, Millwall away, which is a very, very tough place to go. They did exceptionally, and I do think they'll stay up. And it wouldn't shock me if they finish a bit higher, providing Warnock stays throughout the whole season. But if he leaves at any point, then I think they get relegated, unless they really replace him with a really good manager. 20th, I've gone for Cardiff. Now, again, I originally had Cardiff going down a couple of weeks ago, but there's one particular sign that I actually think will do well for the bottom end of the Championship, and I'll get to that in a moment. Sambri Lamucci left at the end of last season, which a lot of Cardiff fans didn't seem to be on board with. Errol Bullitt, I think is how you pronounce it, has took over the club. Now, there's 3 signings in particular I highlight. Josh Bowler, which I believe is on loan from Blackpool, but I could be wrong. Aaron Ramsey is, of course, the headline stealer. And if they keep him fit and keep him in the number 10 position, then they could get a lot out of him. And checking that's still on, get a lot out of him and do really well. But the signing that I'm actually quite intrigued by is Karlan Grant on loan from West Brom. I think that's what elevated me from getting them to be relegated to being above survival. And they might do a bit better, we don't know. But I feel like with those, I think the signings they've just got that little bit of extra quality that I think the teams below them lack in comparison. 19th, I've gone for Plymouth Argyle. Now, obviously, the 2 big signings that I've bothered to mention are Morgan Whittaker and Ballymumba coming back. Both of them very, very good signings. And Stephen Schumacher's done exceptionally at Plymouth. He took over from Ryan Lowe in the 2021-22 season in League One, the year we got promoted. He's done really well. They missed out on the playoffs then, but they deserved to go up as champions last year. They were really, really good. Some people have predicted Plymouth to go down, but I personally don't see it. I think for me with Plymouth, they recruit so well and on such an upward trajectory that I think, and especially at Home Park, I think that if they make Home Park a relative fortress in comparison to size around them, I think Plymouth will actually do quite well. So I think Home Park, I think will be a pretty tricky place to go to for teams. Away from home, as a gut feeling, I think Plymouth will struggle, but I think at home they will do really, really well. And Stephen Schumacher knows what he's doing. They've got a really good team togetherness and ethic there. And again, Ballymumba in particular, signing from Norwich, who I thought would be in the Norwich first team this coming season. To get him is a really good steal. And again, Morgan Whittaker, modest prices. I like the look of what Plymouth are doing. 18th. Now, this might be a bit of a drop-off here, but I've gone for Preston. Calvin Ramsey, they've got. They've signed Calvin Ramsey. Now, Will Keane is one that, in theory, could replace Tom Cannon. But at the time of recording, they haven't got Tom Cannon yet, but it looks like they could get Tom Cannon. If they get Tom Cannon, then I wouldn't be shocked if they finish a few places higher. But with Preston, I feel like, I don't know, there seems to be a bit of a stagnation going on. From what I've heard from some Preston fans, they're not happy with what's happening behind the scenes, unless, of course, that's just a select few Preston fans, and that's the minority that I've heard, or I've seen on social media anyway, and I know social media is not a big barometer, but still. Preston, if they get Tom Cannon, will shoot up a few extra places, but as of right now, they don't have him, and I think that around about 18th is where they'll finish. I think they finished around mid-table last year, and they were on a bit of a downward trajectory second half of last season, barring a 4 or 5 decent game run, where I think it was maybe with 10 games to go, they were on the verge of the playoffs. But again, I might be wrong. 17th, this is the biggest drop-off, I think. I've gone for Blackburn. I hate pinning the loss of one player as a reason why teams will do much worse. But I have to be honest, Ben Brereton-Diaz is going to be a loss. Now, again, they've got the likes of Sammy Smolis, Tyrese Dolan, they've signed Niall Ennis from Plymouth, I believe. And obviously Bradley Dack's gone to Sunderland, but I don't include Bradley Dack as players they've lost because he didn't fit into John Del Thomason's sort of way of playing, I think, or didn't fit into his plans. So it's not really a loss from their perspective. But Ben Brereton-Diaz is the big one. They've lost him for free when they probably should have cashed in about a year ago. But I think and apparently off the pitch, things aren't great financially. They're not in great shape. And if John Del Thomason leaves, then they could finish even lower than that. We don't know. But Blackburn, again, I've got a lot of respect for. Huge size club. Really underperformed for the last decade, to be honest. But I feel like right now, I think Blackburn will drop off to bottom half, but they won't be in any danger of getting relegated. But again, Blackburn fans, let me know what you think. Hull City are in 16th. Now, I want to make this clear. From about maybe Preston to up to about maybe 8th or 9th, it's like neck and neck. It's very hard for me to call who's going to finish where. But any of these teams could make a challenge for the playoffs. But I'd say Hull in 16th. And a couple of the players I've mentioned that they've got, I think, is it Ruben Vinagre, which I believe is from Wolves. I might be wrong there. My dog Sans has decided to come and join the video. But anyway, Liam Delap is another one where he's someone that last year at Stoke and Preston, he didn't really fulfill his potential. And he's got to have a big season in him. And it might be that Liam Rosenior gets the best out of him. With Liam Rosenior, last year, Hull were really, really solid defensively. And I feel like that's going to keep them in, that at times will keep them in the hunt for the playoffs. Even though, again, the likes of Carl Darlow, they've lost. And I think he's gone to Leeds. So that's a big, big blow. But I think Hull will be well clear of relegation worries. But I think Hull will be about, maybe might flirt with the playoffs because of how good they are defensively, but again, how much of that was down to Cardalo last season. But I think they'll be about mid-table, which I feel is about right. But again, Hull fans, let me know what you think. 50, I've gone for Swansea City. Now, the two players, the couple of points here, they've lost Ryan Manning, sorry, that's it, I'm thinking of the head coach here. Ryan Manning has joined former boss Russell Martin at Southampton, and Michael Duff has come in from Barnsley to replace him. I feel like, because Michael Duff, apparently with Barnsley, they were very good at pressing the opposition, and with Russell Martin, his philosophy was very much like possession-based. Not keeping possession for the sake of it, but, keeping possession nonetheless, and using possession to create dangerous opportunities. They've signed Josh Key and Jerry Yates among the players. Well, they're among the players they've signed. But is it Joel Perreault? I think it is. If they lose Perreault, which then has been linked with a move to Southampton, I think. If they lose Perreault, then they could finish even lower. But I think this season for Swansea is going to be a period of transition. But again, they've got some decent players there, and they've got a good foundation. I think it'll just take a year for Michael Duff's style and philosophy to bed into these players. 14th, I've gone for Bristol City. Now, Bristol City, I've seen a couple of people, including What the Falk, I think it is. Graham Falk, great podcast, by the way, check it out. But he mentioned, I believe, that Bristol City might have been a shout for the playoffs. I could be wrong there, and I think Bristol City will give teams a go. Last season, they were one of the better teams, in my opinion, that came to the Stadium of Light. They gave us a go. They didn't let us settle. They pressed. They kind of remind me, in a way, of League One Oxford, but in a much better version. And look, obviously, with Bristol City, they brought in Ross McCorry, Jason Knight, and Rob Dickey. And obviously, that's another thing for QPR. They sold Rob Dickey to Bristol City, but that could be Bristol City's gain if Rob Dickey thrives in a better environment. Obviously, Alex Scott's the main thing, that if they sell him to Wolves, and by the way, don't anyone tell me that 20 million odd for Jack Clark is unreasonable when Alex Scott looks like he's going for that to maybe 25 million. But anyway, if Alex Scott goes, they've got a good amount of money to replace him, or so they should, and I think that they will spend it. And Nigel Pearson, as much as I'm not a big fan of him as a character, has done really well at Bristol City, and I think will do really well this coming season. And it wouldn't shock me if they finish in the top half, maybe even knock on the door of the playoffs. But I've put them down here just because of the amount of teams that I think will be better than them. 13th, I've gone for Birmingham City. Now, Birmingham have obviously lost Chong to Luton, and obviously Joe Bellingham to Sunderland, but they've also signed the likes of Christian Bellick from Derby, I believe, Keshi Anderson, Sariki Dembele, Ethan Laird, and Dion Sanderson. And the main thing for them, the big win, was the takeover. And I think that will elevate them a few places. And again, these might be pushing maybe for a playoff push. We don't know. But with Birmingham, I feel like they're in a crest wave at the moment. And I think that they will... I've got them 13th, but again, I wouldn't be shocked if they finished higher. The crest wave of the takeover means that they can get out the sort of mediocrity of finishing 17th all the time and will actually start to give their fans something to shout about. Right, into the top half now. And in 12th, I've gone for West Bromwich Albion. West Brom, I debated putting in the same category as Blackburn and having a big drop-off. And I think with West Brom, their off-the-pitch stuff continues to dominate the headlines in terms of what's going to happen on the pitch. Carlos Corberán, as of recording, is still there, to my knowledge. But obviously, he left Huddersfield because the situation off the pitch wasn't as great. And I wouldn't be shocked if he did so again. And they've let if you look at it, but saying that though, they've also lost Dara O'Shea, went to Burnley. They've loaned out Callan Grant and sold Jake Livermore to Watford. They've signed someone called Jeremy Sarmentio. Jeremy Sarmentio. I'm terrible at pronouncing names. They haven't got I don't think they've signed as many players, but Josh Madger obviously is one that I said in my 5 videos I'd like Sunderland to sign, that I would want Josh Madger here. For free, you can't go much wrong. And I think Josh Madger will do really well at West Brom. And again, they've still got good players. They've got the likes of Jed Wallace. Again, they've now got Josh Madger added to their ranks. They've got some good signings. They've got some decent... And West Brom really should be challenging for the playoffs. But again, I'm interested to know what West Brom fans think. But I think West Brom off-the-pitch matters will spill over on the pitch, especially with, likes of key figures like O'Shea going out. But again, could be wrong. Right, in 11th, I've gone for Watford. Now, again, Watford, it's a funny one because last season there was a car crash at Watford. And Verulan Ismail, who was at Barnsley a couple of years ago when they got into the playoffs, and then was at West Brom, which didn't go quite so well. Watford are a basket case in terms of head coaches. They get rid of them left, right, and centre. They even put Sunderland to shame on that. But when you look at the players, they've lost Leandro Bacuna, they lost Islam Assar, they lost João Pedro, Tom Cleverley obviously since left ages ago. But they brought in Jamal Lewis, Jake Livermore, Tom Ince among the players they brought in. Now, Jamal Lewis I think should be a good signing at this level. If you get him back to his best, as he was in the Norwich title-winning seasons, then not a title-winning season about 4 or 5 years ago, which granted is a while ago, but I like Jamal Lewis. I think there is a player there. Get the best out of him, they could do well. Jake Livermore could be a good character for the dressing room, and Tom Ince, who I believe the release cost like £50,000 or something, which fair enough for that price is definitely worth going, but it's something when you go from João Pedro and Islam Assar to Tom Ince. But Tom Ince is a competent championship player, or he should be. But again, it's just the constant cycle of sacking head coaches. And the main reason I debated putting them below West Brom. And the main reason I've got Watford to finish higher is simply because I think Watford's main issue off the pitch is just because they keep sacking everybody. Whereas West Brom financially aren't in a great shape by the sound of it. Right, 10th. Alex Neil's Stoke City. Now, they've signed 10 players, and I'm not going to bother to go through all of them for the sake of time, but the three have stood out. Hover from West Brom for Wolves again on loan, and to be fair, when I watched Stoke play Blackburn, I think it was last season on Sky, Hover really impressed me, and I think that's a good signing for them. Ben Pearson, they've got on a permanent deal, which I think is a good signing for them. And the big one is Wesley from Aston Villa. Now, it hasn't gone well for him at Villa, but as much as it pains me to admit it, because I detest Alex Neil, and I really hope I'm wrong here, but I can see him getting the best out of Wesley. He's signed on a 1-year deal, and I think with Alex Neil's probably had a pre-season now, he's going to have a transfer window. Some people have predicted, I wouldn't be shocked, as unfortunate, as much as I don't like to admit it, and it's nothing against Stoke before anyone goes in the comments, it's purely Alex Neil. I wouldn't be shocked if Stoke challenge or competing for the playoffs. I don't think they'll finish there, but I'll be pretty surprised if they don't finish at least top half. I think with Alex Neil, how can I put this? The signings they're making are looking pretty good, and I think if they can get a bit of consistency in the final third, then they will start to shoot up the league, because consistency in the final third and taking chances was their big problem last season. 9th, I've gone for Millwall. The 3 players I want to highlight they brought in: Joe Byram. Is it Joe Bryan? Sorry, Joe Bryan, ex-Fulham left-back, Wes Harding from Rotherham, and Kevin Nesbitt. Now, why have I got it in my head that's from Hibernian, but I might be wrong there. Kevin Nesbitt apparently was sought after by quite a few clubs. Now, Millwall, I feel people overhype a little bit. I think they are a side that definitely are capable of challenging for the playoffs. And let's be honest, they should have finished in there last season. We finished in the playoffs last year, partly because Ben Brereton Diaz was a Sunderland fan, basically. But Millwall shouldn't have got, from 3-1 up at half-time against Blackburn on the final day of last season, they shouldn't have not finished in the playoffs in that position. That's criminal from their perspective. But I feel like with Millwall, from set pieces, they're a threat. And defensively, they're in general very solid. I just don't see them being good enough going forward in comparison to teams above them to finish in the playoffs ahead of the aforementioned teams I'm going to mention. Gary Rowett's done a very good job at stabilising them. And obviously their owner passing away in the summer, my condolences on that regard, because that's something that could shake people. And obviously the whole of Millwall seemed devastated by that, and rightly so. But with Millwall, I think they'll finish in the top half, just finish in top 10, top 9, but I think they'll miss out on the playoffs. 8th, I've gone for Norwich City. Now, obviously, the signings they brought in Christian Fasnacht. I've got no idea how he's going to be, but I'm hearing quite a few things about him. Ashley Barnes is the signing I'm really keen on from Burnley on a free transfer. Shane Duffy, if they can keep him fit, should be a good signing. And Jack Stacey, who I believe was from Bournemouth, but I could be wrong. Now, saying that, they've got Nunes still there. They've got Gabriel Sara still there as of the time of recording. But they've also sold Ballymunba, and they've lost Timu Puki, could yet lose Max Aarons. So I'm of the opinion, I think, look, Norwich as a squad should be challenging for the playoffs. And last season was a criminal underachievement. Whether they will this time, I'm not sure. Now, I'm going to watch the excellent Talk Norwich City podcast. Chris Reeve and Jack Reeve are excellent. I really love watching them. Probably my favourite non-Sunderland football podcast. They're not confident. And some of their fans are saying that top half or barely top half or mid-table mediocrity beckons. And really for that squad, that shouldn't be acceptable. There's also talk of the sporting director, Stuart Webber, potentially going to Leeds. Whether either has gone or could go to Leeds to join former Norwich boss Daniel Farke. Now, David Wagner is on a big season here because he needs to get this right. He needs to get a good start. And I think with Norwich, how long is he going to get? We don't know. But anyway, 8th, I've gone for Norwich. They should be challenging. Whether they will be is a different question. And 7th, and I know Chris Reeve's going to hate me for this, I've gone for Ipswich to finish above them. Look, what can you say about Ipswich? There's a reason I think people are hyping them. Not the top 20 podcasts who I respect put them 3rd, which I think is a bit too high. But again, they do know what they're talking about, so maybe there might be factors behind it. Ipswich, I'm telling you now, will be, and on Sunday, I hope Sunderland fans don't just go, they're in League One last season, we should beat them easily. It won't work like that. Ipswich are a very damn tough side. Panucci Kamara's gone to Charlton, I believe, but if you look at the signings of Buttons, Jack Taylor and George, they haven't signed many players, but Jack Taylor from Peterborough should be a good signing, and George Hurst should be a good signing. Ipswich, the crest wave of Kieran McKenna being a very good manager, and the fact they've got Connor Chapman, they've got Nathan Broadhead, they've got Freddie Ladapo, Wes Burns, I believe. They've got a really, really good core side. And I know it was in League One, but you don't score over 100 goals in League One if you're not a good team. And I think Ipswich, wouldn't surprise me if they finish in the top 6. They will challenge a lot of teams this season. Mark my words. Right, 6th. This is where it gets interesting. 6th, I've gone for Coventry City. Now, originally I thought Coventry would finish about 8th or 9th. And look, losing Victor Gyökeres, and at the time of recording, could still lose Gustavo Hamer, could be a factor behind it. But when you look at but the main signing they brought in was Ellis Sims. But in addition to that, they brought Joel Latibude. Again, why do people have such unpronounceable names? Jay De Silva on a free from Bristol City. They could get, now I think, is it Hadji Wright? I can't remember, but there's a striker with a surname called Wright that they could be getting. Mark Robbins is the big reason I've gone for them to finish 6th. I trust him a lot. I think he knows what he's doing. And every year he challenges. Every year he's got to get better. And last season they challenged. Now, I think it will take a while for Ellis Sims to adapt to the hole left by Victor Gyökeres. But again, Coventry could adapt to play to Ellis Sims' strengths. Now, any Coventry fans potentially watching this, as someone who rated Ellis Sims is nowhere near the quality level of Gyökeres. But I promise, if you get him in the 6-yard box, he will score goals. And I still think Sunderland should have gone for him permanently. But I think Coventry, mainly down to Mark Robbins, will get 6th spot again. 5th, I've gone for Sunderland. Now, some of our fans have gone of the opinion that they don't think we'll finish in the playoffs. Now, I completely disagree with that. The main thing for us, and I won't go into it too much, but we talked about it with Thane on earlier in the week, but the main thing I'll say is Amad Diallo is the only place, that position is the only place where I think we're weaker than last season. Striker, I think obviously you've got him here coming in. I think we will get at least one more forward, or I'd like to hope so. Hopefully the recruitment team's learnt their lesson in that regard. Ross Stewart could still go at the time of recording, but when you look at the squad, I think the squad we've definitely strengthened from last year. And I think the team we've got is good enough to be in the playoffs. Now, again, we're not the finished article. I still think we need another number 10, slightly more experienced defensive midfielder if we can, and another striker. And if we get them, then with the exception of Ross Stewart, without, like I said in last night's video, with the exception of Ross Stewart, if nobody leaves and we get those positions, I expect minimum playoffs. I think that we did overachieve last year, but at the same time, I think the players, Christian Speakman said it himself, and the players are saying the aim is to get promoted. We want to be challenging near the top of the league. So for me, if we don't finish in the playoffs, I think it's a criminal underachievement, if I'm being honest. But 5th, I've gone with Sunderland. 4th, I've gone with Borough. Now, obviously, look, Morgan, they've got Morgan Rogers has come in. They've got Ran van der Berg, Senny Dieng, Alex Gilbert, Sam Silvera, I think it is. Now, they still have Chuba Akpom at the time of recording. Now, if Akpom stays, Borough should be in the playoffs at least. But where I disagree with people is when they say they're going to be in the top 2. They've lost Zach Steffen. How well he did at Borough, I don't know. They lost Jacob Ramsey and Archer, both returned to Aston Villa. And there was one more player they lost as well. Ryan Giles, I think it is, who's gone to Luton. That's a big amount of talent to replace. And I don't think it'll be as plain sailing as last year. But I do believe with Michael Carrick, with the Akpom, especially if he stays, will be enough to get into the playoffs again. And I've got them to finish 4th. But if Akpom goes, they drop a few positions for me. 3rd place. Now, obviously, of course, we've got the relegated teams in the top 3. And it was very difficult to decide, but I've gone for Leeds United in 3rd. Now, look, some of the signings they've got. So let's just read through them. Dan James, they've got Janotto, I think it is. Jack Harrison's still there. Tyler Adams is still there. Patrick Bamford, Joe Gelhart is still there. They've obviously got Rodrigo still there. Robin Koch, which is quite a funny name, actually. Joe Robles, Rodrigo, Robin Koch, Joe Robles and Tyler Roberts have left. But they've obviously signed Ethan Ampadu and Carl Darlow. They've got very good players, and they've got a head coach in Daniel Farker who knows how to get promoted out of this league. The main reason that stopped me putting them in the top 2 is how bad they were defensively last year. And I think that's something you don't just eradicate overnight. And Daniel Farker's teams have generally not been known to being very solid. Maybe at championship level, but I just think I can see Leeds conceding quite a few goals, and I think that will be the undoing as far as the top 2 is concerned. But they have got a very quality squad, and I wouldn't be shocked if they did finish in the top 2. I just think the teams above them are going to be stronger. 2nd, dogs are trying to go down. 2nd, I've gone for Southampton. Now, Russell Martin, there's an argument that he hasn't won promotion yet, and he hasn't done anything. But at MK Dons and Swansea, he hasn't exactly had a side that's been built for promotion. This Southampton squad should be. So if you look at it, Will Smallbone, Nathan Teller are still there. James Ward-Prowse and Romeo Lafayette are still there, but the latter two you expect to depart. However, if they go, they bring a massive amount of money in there. But you also look at Joe Rebo, Che Adams, Adam Armstrong, etc. You know, if they get Joe Perot, is it Joe Perot or Joe Perot from Swansea? They get these players in. They've got a squad that should be challenging. And I'm going to say this right here. They've signed Shea Charles and Ryan Manning. But for me, Joe Rebo is one that I promise you I think will be a big watch, because since leaving Charlton to go to Rangers, whenever I watch Rangers, and I watch them quite a bit because one of my mates likes Rangers, Joe Rebo impressed me every time, and I think he will thrive in the Championship, mark my words. But Southampton, especially if they keep Adam Armstrong and Che Adams, will score a lot of goals. That's a beast of a lineup at this level. Even if they lose one of them, I think they will replace the other one, and they will still have a very good forward line. But Southampton, for me, will get second. And top, of course, Leicester City. Harry Winks, Callum Doyle, Connor Cody are three signings they've made. All of them, I think, are very impressive at this level. Obviously, the loss of likes of Johnny Evans, Ayose Perez, Daniel Amati, Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, Yori Tielemans. They've lost these players, but, you know, Maddison and Barnes in particular, they got a good modest fee for them. They could still lose a few other ones. They still got Dewsbury Hall there. Leicester City, for me, with Enzo Maresca, yes, he's not proven, but I think when you get a gut feeling about a head coach that it's going to work, I've got that feeling at Leicester. And originally I didn't have Leicester in the top two because some of their fans were saying last year there was a cultural attitude problem behind the scenes. This season, it looks like they've obviously shifted the squad over, and I think there'll be a hungrier squad. Connor Cody in particular is one that really impresses me at this level. I just think Leicester, I think it might take a bit of time for Leicester to get going, but I do believe it will eventually click for Leicester, and I think Leicester will be champions and will win the Championship. So there you go, guys. I'm not going to go through all my predictions again, but there you go. So just bottom three, I've gone Sheffield, QPR and Rotherham to go down. 6th, Coventry. 5th, Sunderland. 4th, Borough. 3rd, Leeds. And then top two, Leicester winning the league with Southampton finishing 2nd. Let me know in the comments below, respectively, what your Championship predictions are. And as you guys know, and I'm going to say this again, 48% of people who watch, according to my analytics, are not subscribed. So if you could hit the subscribe button and you think I've earned it from you, that would be massively appreciated. I don't like asking for likes and stuff, but, you know, it's the best way to try and get them subscribers up. But there you go. Let me know what you think, guys. And yes, unless something happens in the next couple of days with signings, the next time you'll see me is after Ipswich. Football's back. Can't wait. Take care. Love yous all lots and stay safe.